All right, what? Oh, we're doing this again? All right, listen, it's a two-parter. You listen to the first part, now this is the second part. Episode 76.5, if you will. This is our first ever two-parter, part two of our two-parter. You already listened to part one of episode 76. That's Elon and Twitter. Lots of details there. And now we're going to cover some more topics, including the global food crisis, China's plan to stockpile a bunch of food, geopolitics, all around the horn, French election, Germany, etc. And then we'll go into details about a little bit of the drama and details, pageantry, parties, poker, all the good stuff of the All In Summit coming soon. Okay, enjoy the show, everybody. I'll see you on Monday.
Let your winners ride.
Rain Man David Sack.
And instead, we open source it to the fans, and they've just gone crazy with it.
Love you, besties. Queen of Quinoa. There's still a war raging, but I wanted to get an update from Friedberg on the food crisis, which he predicted very early. Fertilizer prices are still climbing like crazy. There's been some food rioting in China, which I think is a separate issue. He'll educate us in a minute. Sri Lanka. So what is your theory of what we're going to do from here, Friedberg? Because I think we're all waiting for this shoe to drop, and I think you predicted this is something that we would experience into the fall and into next year. So when are we going to actually see these food riots occurring? And then, is China's food riots have anything to do with this, or does that have to do with fresh food?
I would put the Chinese food riots as kind of a separate localized supply chain problem related to the lockdowns.
Got it.
But we're definitely, I think I mentioned last week the USDA planting report showing in the U.S. how acreage is being reduced on corn. And we're seeing this around the world where acres are coming out of production or less fertilizer is being used, which means less food's being made. So everything that we predicted, I mean, this is a slow train, a Titanic into the iceberg that we're watching right now. And it's going to continue for 9 to 18 months. So, one of the questions that people are now asking, which I said, would become a really critical next step in this crisis, is how are we going to bridge the gap in calories? Where's the food going to come from? And how are we going to feed nations that are almost entirely dependent on imports that are running out of food or out of food? So I've mentioned this in the past. The whole world runs on a 90-day food supply, which means roughly 25% of the world's calories are in storage right now. But that's not the case uniformly. So some countries like Tunisia and Somalia, Ethiopia have close to 0 calories in storage. Some countries like the United States are roughly 30-40% of our annual consumed calories are sitting in storage. China is a complete outlier. For years, China has been stockpiling food. And at this point, China has 150% of their annual consumption of food in storage. So they have supplies that if all food production and imports stopped in China, they would be able to feed their population for 1.5 years. That's an incredible supply of food. So as you look around the world to places like Sri Lanka and places like Somalia that are struggling to figure out how are we going to bridge this gap on calories that's about to hit us. Egypt's about 4 months of food, by the way, and Egypt is dwindling. They cannot get the food out of the Black Sea. So China is going to be one of the very few potential solutions for bridging the calorie gap over the next year. And I have a strong prediction and a strong belief that because of that, China will use it to maximal leverage. And we will see over the next year an incredible amount of leverage and power being accumulated by China because of transactions that they're going to start to enter into to bridge the calorie gap around the world. So in the Horn of Africa, for example, there has been this continuous presence of China trying to give themselves a military base, trying to take some influence over local media. And there's been this kind of push and pull with certain populations around whether or not we should kind of embrace China locally. And I think that, for example, the food crisis that we're seeing emerge in Ethiopia, Somalia, Eritrea, Djibouti is going to be resolved by China. And China is going to end up gaining influence, gaining military presence, and establishing a more permanent foothold in the Horn of Africa because of the position that they're in of strength with all these calories and the need in these regions. And that's not just there. Sri Lanka, other parts of Southeast Asia, even Western Africa, Northern Africa, China's going to show up. And they're the only country that can show up. The UN, the World Food Program, they're going to do everything they can to shuffle calories around, change food supplies. But I do think that one of the things that everyone's going to be watching, and it's a slow roll. This isn't going to be some one big deal and everyone wakes up. Over the next year, while the US is, trying to do everything we can to maximally impose sanctions on Russia, China is slowly turning the crank around the world on the influence that they are going to gain because of this food crisis and the absolute, surplus that they have locally and the ability to export that surplus to support needs around the world. And it's not going to be free. It's not going to be cheap. So I thought it was worth highlighting what we're seeing. And I shared a couple of articles with you guys and with Nick, articles that no one is paying attention to. And this isn't some conspiratorial, oh my God, there's some dangerous thing happening. I'm just pointing out one of the things that's happening as we talk about, the great change in power, the shift in power globally that's happening. It is happening in a very significant way this year, given the surplus that China has, the dearth that many countries have, and the inability for the US to really adequately respond to the food crisis that's emerging. And so I thought it was worth bringing to everyone's attention. There's a lot of little articles that support this point. I shared them with you guys. You guys can put them in the show notes and put them up on YouTube and whatever. But I think this is going to become a macro trend that we're going to wake up to in 6 to 9 months and be like, whoa, what the heck happened? How did China get so much leverage around the world? And it's starting now.
That's what happens with every war. We go in hot, it's rah, rah, we're all gung ho. And then at some point in time, we're like, wait a second, why do we do that?
Yeah.
And look, there's no shortage of neocons and liberal interventionists who are all saying this war is wonderful for us because it's reunited the American alliance and the Western alliance, and that this war is a good thing for us. Let's keep it going. Let's bleed Russia. Let's topple Putin. Let's destabilize the regime. They're in favor of protracted conflict that I've been, warning against. And what Friedberg is saying is the longer this conflict goes on, the more of these disastrous scenarios are going to materialize.
What is your take on how crippled Putin is right now, David, just objectively? And again, you're not a fan of Putin. You're responsible for the war. You've been clear about that. But he just lost his ship. This does not look good for him. It feels like he can't, and he's losing all his tanks. This seems like a crazy
I don't know anything you don't know in terms of, I'm just a consumer of information. But I tend to think that we are overly optimistic in the West. And look, the war has clearly gone very bad for Putin. But this idea that that magically we're going to get regime change in Moscow, we're going to get Gorbachev 2.0, that is an objective worth protracting this war for. I tend to think it's going to be a mistake. That's now doesn't mean I support Russia's invasion. I've said it's illegal. It's a crime. It's a violation of international law. It's a humanitarian disaster. But what I've supported is a negotiated peace, a settlement that we try to get as quickly as possible. That is clearly not the administration's position on this. They want to keep this thing going. And, this idea that a long war is good for America's alliances, I would disagree with that because you're already seeing all over the world now, people are starting to object to American policy. You saw it with India. And India is the world's largest democracy. They should be on our side. They definitely should not be on China's side because they have a huge latent tension. But China and India are both de facto on Russia's side on this. Africa and large parts of Latin America.
Well, India would like to have oil. And they would like to maintain
they would like to maintain their relationship with Russia, and they did not support the denunciation of Russia. They would like to see this conflict end. Large parts of Africa would like to see it end. Latin America, basically all the victims. If there's a famine in the world in 6 months, like Friedberg is saying, they are all very worried about this. All of them have expressed concern with the American policy, which seems to be to protract this war.
Okay, and Friedberg, you have to go do your talk at Berkeley. Congratulations, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for the contribution. Chamath, any thoughts on the CPI? We set a record. That seemed to have gotten lost in the haze of Twitter.
I learned something really interesting that I just wanted to share with you guys. So there was a big CPI print, obviously, but there was a report, probably not many people read it, but it was about home equity. And the takeaway was that since 2020, Americans have taken 430, I think the exact number is 427, $427 billion of home equity out of their homes and effectively spent it. So what it started to make me think about was, if you look at all of that home equity, plus the stimmy checks, plus the unemployment insurance checks, that starts to explain, I think, why the labor markets are so tight and why people haven't gone back to work. There is no motivation because there's just so much money sloshing around for them to basically not have to be forced to do any of this stuff that they don't want to anymore. And I think the thing to keep in mind is, like, that's also what's gone into the stock market. It's also what's driven up the price of used cars, new cars, all of this stuff. I just think that kind of like starts to paint a picture of CPI that's really important, which is that it's probably a little bit more transitory than we may actually think. Because when you exhaust all of that extra money that's
dry
in the
powder,
system, there's not as much inflation to be had. And I think most people are now forecasting that inflation is really going to taper off. And the big warning sign that everybody is sort of, marching towards is, too many excessive rate hikes between now and the end of the year could actually push us into a real recession. And we were talking about that before, but the probability is now sort of like 1 in 3. Whereas before, I think, David and I sounded a little bit crazy when we were talking about it. So I just wanted to put that out there as something I learned this week that I thought was really important.
The labor participation rate peaked at 67, 68%.
But $500 billion of home
61.
equity. I mean, $500 billion of actual spending in the economy. That's a ton of money to be absorbed.
Right. If people have a couple of $100,000 in their bank account who own homes or whatever, there's no need to go back to a job. And if you don't feel safe because you maybe still have some COVID fears, or you don't want to commute, or you're just out of the rhythm for 2 years, and you're like, I'm kind of enjoying skiing or whatever you're doing, whatever your jam is, maybe there's no rush to get back.
You'll wait until you exhaust all of that money.
Yeah. And then we're not, as we talked about, we're not letting people into the country at the same time. So you still have 10 million job openings. If that flips, that would be economic activity. That would be helpful in fighting against a recession, correct?
I mean, I think that we're probably going to have a quarter or two contraction. It's probably going to happen at sort of at the late end of this year, beginning of next year. Just the real question is how high are rates between now and then? And again, I think the setup isn't very good, which is that the investors in the stock market are playing chicken with the Fed. And, they're just at the beginning of a rate cycle, and they haven't been able to impact any real forms of liquidity in the equity market. And so I think they're going to attack that. And the only blunt force instrument they have is rates. And so, you could see rates at 3.5%. And that's going to impact a lot of stuff. And the problem is that, it's going to be after the economy has slowed down, because it's going to be after a lot of these, fake savings, if you will, have been depleted.
Yeah, well, we're seeing some pressure come off as well. The car shortage is kind of ending, and wages have raised. So that it seems like they're in this, confluence of events. Certain things are starting to work themselves out. Are you
Hey,
bullish?
can I tell you something else? I was in Washington this week. The number of people that listen to our pod, it is incredible.
It's interesting, yeah. How many
incredible
people in Washington care about our views on politics?
It's incredible. So
I've heard that feedback too.
Yeah, it's really, really, really special. We've stumbled into something pretty cool, and the fact that it's like must listening. It's must listen at this.
It's like a Sunday weekly show. You just get a different perspective from the tech sector and capital allocators that maybe you don't get on Meet the Press or something.
Yeah.
But just to follow up on that inflation point, the economic point, Jason, if I can. So,
please.
So look, the main reason inflation is going to go down in the second half of this year is because inflation is measured on a year-over-year basis. And you remember about a year ago is when inflation started. But around this time last year, inflation was only 2.5%. Then it reached 5% by the summer. Then by the end of the year, it was almost 8%. So as we sort of lap last year's inflation rate, we come up against, you're comping against a 7.8% number last year. So I don't think inflation's going to get any better. We're probably looking at roughly a 12%, official 2-year inflation number. So in other words, since Biden took over as president, you're looking at probably 12 to 13% of total inflation as measured by CPI. And that is why, even though the headline number will come down later this year, I don't think the American people are going to feel any better about the situation. You can almost predict that Jen Psaki or whoever replaces her at the podium at the White House briefing room, they're going to be touting these lower inflation numbers at the end of the year. But it doesn't mean price levels will have decreased. Prices will still be very high. When people go to the grocery store, they buy meat or bread or what have you. It's going to be very expensive. And I don't think people are going to be feeling better off. And there's going to be a lot of negativity going into the November election for this administration.
And also, I think it's going to impact consumption. I mean, if you're going to a gas station and I drove the minivan to LA and it's the only non-electric car we have. We happened to drive it because we had a number of people that was bigger than the X. And it was like shocking to buy $7 gasoline. And obviously I can withstand, filling up, but I could see people saying, you know what, maybe I'm not going to make that incremental trip, or, you start looking at some of the prices, for taking a trip or flights. I don't know if you've looked at flights or hotels, like things are starting to creep up that it's like super noticeable, and that's got to affect consumption. And then that would be part of those negative 2 quarters, right, Chamath? I mean, the role of people stopping consuming and just saying, you know what, it's too expensive right now. I'll stay at home and watch Netflix. Fuck it. I'll cook pasta tonight.
You see that happening already.
Yeah, people are starting to balance the balance sheet. Just looking at the balance sheet and saying, you know what, what's a way I can, cut some expensive items off I'll ride a bike.
They're going to take less travel because, the cost of airline tickets have gone up, because the cost of the jet fuel has gone up. It all ripples through the economy. But I think the thing is that when the Fed gets involved, though, they get involved in a brute force way.
Let me make a prediction right now. If we're definitely headed into an economic slowdown. I don't know if it will meet the technical definition of recession, but very high
2 negative quarters of growth.
Yes, exactly. So, very high chance, I think, of recession, like Chamath said, towards the end of the year. If this war is still going on and we get in a recession, look out below. I think this president will be in Jimmy Carter territory. He began the year at 38%. That was in reasonably good conditions of peacetime. If, and I tweeted at the beginning of the year in January, I said that, this is, you're at 38%. That's with peace and prosperity. We'll look out below if we get recession and war. That's what it's looking like right now. So, I think things are looking pretty dire, which is why I keep saying it. The policy of this administration should be to try and find a settlement to the situation in Ukraine, to this war. I know that we didn't start it. Putin started it. Let's be clear. But if there's an off-ramp here, we should be seizing it, because we got real problems back home in America, and the administration should be focused on our economy and our problems.
Europe is going to be the canary in the coal mine on all of this, because I think they feel this pretty severely. And I think there's a lot of exhaustion amongst European governments and leaders when you start to listen to this rhetoric, to kind of, find a way to end what's going on over there, because they're going to see a pretty meaningful recession, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Much more so than we will.
Yeah, and if you look right now, what's happening in France, Marine Le Pen is surging,
unbelievable, against
Macron. I don't know if she's going to pull off the upset, but one of the major pillars. Well, actually, here's what she's running on. She is saying that she has been focused on inflation and cost of living, and she says Macron has been distracted by being America's basically lapdog puppet, whatever, on Ukraine. So she's saying we need to focus on the French economy. And she's also saying that we as France should set our own foreign policy and not be so deferential to the U.S. She says that this protracted war in Ukraine and all this hot rhetoric coming out of the Biden administration about war crimes and destabilizing Putin and toppling him and putting him on trial at The Hague, that is not in French interests. That's what the Americans want to do, but it's not what we should be wanting to do. We need to end this war. And I'm not ready to say she's going to pull off the upset yet, but she is clearly articulating that message, because she is finding purchase with the French electorate based on that message. And you're going to hear that if this war continues for 3 months and 6 months and Europe goes into a recession, you're going to start hearing politicians all over the European continent saying the same thing and questioning American leadership and why they are dragging this thing out.
The thing that's the scariest thing about the French election, and I'm not sure how many Americans paid attention to it, but just to maybe summarize in a very quick nutshell, you actually had this really interesting dynamic of 3 candidates. One was what would be considered far left, Jean-Luc Mélenchon. one far right, Marine Le Pen, and then one that was very, very centrist, Emmanuel Macron. And what's crazy is both of these two were, 22+% of all of the votes. It was just that Le Pen and Macron were 1 and 2. And so they go into a runoff election, and, Mélenchon was very clear. He was like, under no circumstance should any of my supporters vote for Le Pen. But it just shows you what's happening, which is like France, which is, sort of coming undone under this populist fight, is probably a canary in the coal mine for how this stuff could play out in other places. And it's kind of scary.
It'll be interesting to see what happens in Germany as well, as they look at this enabling of Putin.
Well, they were able to hold the line. They still have a center-right government. But, in Austria for a while, that wasn't the case. In Hungary, it's not really the case. So there's a lot of countries, at least in the Eastern Bloc of Europe, where you've seen it tip in one direction or the other. It's not unreasonable to think of that in France, it could tip in one direction or the other. Fortunately, in the UK, or unfortunately, however you look at it, it's still really a two-party system for the most part, I think. So I don't know. We're in a really precarious moment in world history, I think.
Yeah.
By the way, I want to talk about one thing that I talked at the end of last year. I talked about just a very random thing about Visa and MasterCard and how you could short them, or like basically like the payment networks were going to start to get dismantled this year. It's really interesting to see. I don't know if you guys have been really paying attention to all the activity that's been happening in payments over like the last literally 90 days. I think has been really incredible. Up into just today. Visa and MasterCard, I think, are doing the single dumbest thing they could do by being a duopoly, which is raising prices, especially into an inflationary moment, which just lacks complete knowledge and sensitivity of the moment.
So dampen economic activity.
But also creates the incentives for disruption.
Sure.
Right? Because then the gap between you and your next clearest competitor becomes more obvious. And again, in capitalism, you compete away these advantages. And I just think that the setup is becoming more and more obvious for the shift in payments. I just think it's quite interesting. So Dick Durbin actually today basically is going to create a big, hubbub in the Senate around these increasing merchant fees, which will eventually spill over to consumers. There's some talk that, what is it called? Zelly. Is that how you pronounce it? Zelly, the interbank payment system. People are talking about them converting that to becoming a more substantive payment system. And then this week, I was able to see a little bit under the hood of, Solana Pay. And that's really exciting. So it's all coming, I think, it's like a swarm of activity to dismantle these payments businesses. I just wanted to give the 90-day update from our discussion in January.
All right, everybody. We will see you May 15th, 16th, and 17th in Miami for the first All-In Summit, now sold out. No more tickets available. There's a wait list, but we're not going to be able to get to anybody on it. Sorry, you can sign up, and we'll make sure you know about next year. If there is a next year, this might be a one-and-done kind of situation. 3 amazing parties. Sunday night is our poker tournament for charity. The top, it's going to be a sit-and-go format. If you win your sit-and-go, you go into a sit-and-go bake-off, and then you get to sit at the final table with the 4 besties. The winners are going to get to make a donation to the charity of their choice, paid for by the besties. And Sunday night's party will be the Goodfellas party. Monday is going to be the Havana White party. Bring your linen sacks. I know you got a whole closet full down there. And then Tuesday night's our Miami Vice party. Here are the mock-ups of the invites.
Is this a reveal?
This is the first time I'm seeing it.
Yeah,
Same
me too.
time as the
Just
audience.
a little reveal. There's a lot of work. The copy I didn't write. We're workshopping it. It's just we got a little, what do they call that? Like a mood board. It's a little bit of a mood board. Here's your Wet Your Beaks party for Sunday night. It's going to be a Goodfellas theme. Should be a lot of fun.
It looks like Goodfellas.
It looks like Goodfellas. We're going to keep working on it. Wet Your Beaks probably not going to be the name of your party, but that's Sunday night. And then next up is our Havana White party.
Wow.
Despite all the shit you take, you do such a good job with this shit. I gotta say.
Thank you. And then we're going to have
This-
our
this, I
Buena
think,
Vista
is-
Social Club.
I apologize, but I think this is complete dog shit, this one.
Okay,
The first
it's
one,
supposed to be Buena Vista Social Club. You're just a heathen. You never saw that.
the first
picture.
one is so good. This is horrendous. Well, I don't even know what is this picture of. This?
It's a theme on the Buena Vista Social Club. It's not the right image, but we're workshopping it, like I said. But
Yeah.
that's going to be a Havana white party. Everybody's going to wear linens on Monday night, and
That's
going to be at a
terrible.
You
beautiful
misspelled
space.
Schmoss' name in that.
Yeah, like I said, this is just a designer
Okay.
coming up with ideas. And then, of course, we're going to have our Miami Vice. We're going to rent a couple of
Oh, that I like.
Miami Ventures. And so
That
there we
looks
are.
hot.
And so that should be our at 420 Bitcoin Street, your best 80s dress for Miami Venture. So it's going to be three killer
Wow,
parties.
that is that's hot.
I think it's going to be three great parties. You have to, but everybody's going to have to get three great outfits. So linens are easy
Jay-
Monday night.
Cal, your thighs look really big in this photo.
Well, this is fat J Cal. This is not 167 J Cal. This is 198 J Cal.
on your left leg. You can't tell where your bottom part of the leg stops. Where
Well,
your
because I'm
knee
sitting in a
is.
stool in that picture they got, but yeah.
But it's like you have no knee. It's just like one big shank, like
Yeah.
pork
Well,
shoulder.
you know what? It's when you're fat and you got fat suits, everything's. Listen, I'm looking at pictures of myself. Why didn't you guys fat shame me more? That's the question I have. You
Well,
guys should have been
said
just
you're
on
down
top.
to
you
167.
really look incredible. And then yesterday when I saw you, I was like, holy shit, this guy looks really fantastic. Look, there's no knee there. It's just
There's no knee.
It's like
No
shank.
knee.
It's like big shank.
You know what? When you're a fat guy, you get fat suits. You just try to, And now I'm having to rebuy. Look at that fat face.
Ooh, what's
oh
up
my
with
God,
that hair?
Please zoom out.
Oh my god.
Zoom out. Look terrible. Flat hair. Now Sachs
I look-
looking nice.
No, you look good.
I look
Sachs
fabulous.
looks good.
No,
Let's
you
let's
look
go
great.
with this one.
You look
Let's go
great.
with this.
You look great.
Yeah. We're gonna redo mine. I want all the photos done of Vin J Cal for the inspiration. No double chin. What are you doing? You work for me. Don't
Yeah,
fuck.
we need
You're killing me. Where's my neck? Now I got a neck again. I found my neck, everybody. There you have it, folks. So I'm sorry if you did not get into the All In Summit, but we've got a great lineup of speakers and events planned. No press because, well, we have the same distribution, but the press will be able to see all the talks. So all the talks will come out post-event on the All In feed. So for the 10 days after the All In feed, you're going to get a show every day.
And
As
who
we
are our
edit.
confirmed speakers at this point?
Oh my Lord, so many good ones. Hold on, let me pull it up here. Keith Raboy, Palmer Luckey is coming.
Oh, good. So that's confirmed. That's awesome.
Yeah, we got that confirmed. He's a big fan of Saxy Poo. The new website's up, by the way, and it looks beautiful.
Oh, wow. Look at this.
I
So
love
we
this.
have Ryan Peterson, Nate Silver, Brad Gerstner, Claire Vickel, who is amazing, Mar Hershon, Palmer Luckey, Keith Raboy, Joe Lonsdale.
Oh, you got Antonio to want to speak.
Antonio is now coming out of his shell. Antonio
Tim
Garcia
Urban.
Martinez. I mean, these
Nice.
are Adina.
You should
Heffes.
we should get some foreign policy folks too.
I mean, well,
Yeah.
if you guys wanted to do any fucking work, you could help me out here.
I thought this was just a grift you were doing. I didn't know it was serious. Now I may have to help.
Yeah, no, you're going to be proud of this. Well, here's the thing that I'm going to be most proud of is the format. I have come up with a new concept of a format. I came up with a theme question that people can choose to answer or not, but the problem I want to solve. And it could be the problem I most want to solve. It could be the problem I want to see solved, the problem I'm thinking about. People will go up, in most cases, and give a 10 to 20 minute, call it a TED-style talk, a solo dolo talk, where they kind of talk about what they're working on in their lives. Then they come and sit in a chair with two besties on either side. And then the four of us engage them in a conversation. While we're talking, we're going to have maybe 5 slides that producers will put together of data points, et cetera. So we all get educated. We pull up the slide. And then there'll be, 600 people in the auditorium, 100 people in the simulcast room. We will take one question from the audience or 2 questions if we have time with each segment. And so you're going to get a lot of bestie action, but stimulated by bestie guesty positions. And I think this is really what folks want. Now, if somebody doesn't want to give one, let's say Palmer just wants to talk, well, we'll just talk with Palmer. And so there's going to be an option. I told people your position paper, your position statement could be 5 minutes, it could be 20. So
I want to do something on natural resource scarcity and national security. So Jim Latinsky, the CEO of MP Materials.
okay, all you got to do is email me the person's email address or introduce me, and we'll set it
So
up.
we'll do something on the supply chain of like rare earths and lithium, nickel, cobalt.
And then here's my other idea. So I told everybody
So that the problem I'd like to solve there is energy independence for America.
perfect. So then
So
what
do
we're
I
going to
still
do
need
is,
to email you now?
Just email me. But here's the thing we're doing. I told
But
everybody.
I just told you the.
Yeah, we have it. Nick will take a note.
Yeah.
To remind you to get the email address. Here's what's going to happen.
Okay, so you don't need me to email you.
We don't want to guess the email if you have it and you know them. I mean, I know you want to do the least amount of work, but I need to get a producer's fee here. I don't know. You guys got to outvote Friedberg. Putting that aside,
I'm
me
fine with
wetting
that.
my beak.
I'm fine with that too.
Thank you. Then 3, because that's how all in media is working now. It's just going to be votes.
Well, why don't you sign the LLC agreement?
Did anybody sign it yet? I was going to review it
Well,
to
can
see
somebody-
what fucking
can
poison pill Friedberg put in there.
Can somebody-
I'm not signing this shit till I have 2 lawyers look it over. Friedberg's got a poison pill in there.
I don't know about you guys, but I just sign any random DocuSign that ends up in my inbox. I just assume
You know, I want to
it's
get to
been vetted.
speak. You know, I want to
here
get
we
to
go.
speak at
Now,
the conference
in the last 30 days, look,
Yeah, so
woke
I'd like to get Professor John Mearsheimer to speak.
that'd be great.
Yeah, he's a professor at the University of Chicago. He's been there 40 years. He's a leading theorist, you could say, of the school of thought called realism in foreign policy. And he has a track record of being right about all of America's foreign policy.
Oh, wait, this is the guy you shared the video with, right?
Yeah. So
he's the guy who talked about
he
like, the
predicted that
duopoly. What do they call that? The mono, dual, tri, world order,
Mononucleosis.
multipolar,
unipolar
unipolar. When the United States was,
he has a critique. He has a critique of liberal interventionism, which has been the dominant
Fantastic.
foreign policy since the end of the Cold War. It's what got us into Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya. He predicted all those things to be fiascos. He also predicted that our policy of constructive engagement towards China would ultimately backfire and be a disaster. And he has a very contrarian critique right now of our policy in Ukraine that's gone viral on
Great
Twitter, and it's gotten like 10 million plus views. He would be an incredible person to come speak.
Well, here's what's happened while we invite people. You know, we invite some people, they don't know the show. We knew other people, and they're like, oh my God, I love the show. I'm there. What's going to be interesting is the next 30 days, we're going to talk to each person about what topic they really want to, double click on. And then we're going to pair people. So you might have Keith Raboy and Antonio, you might have Tim Urban and Joe Lonsdale or whatever. And so hopefully we can find a little dynamic. Maybe people don't agree. Maybe they have, opposite positions. And then we're going to then have this great Socratic dialogue with everybody. And I think it's going to be a very fast paced type thing. And then hopefully the speakers sit in the VIP area. And then I'm going to have a runner there with a microphone, or I might do it myself. So, I might have Keith Raboy on in the morning. In the afternoon, he might want to chime in on Joe Lonsdale's talk. I run up to him with a microphone, etc. So we're going to do 2 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon. So it's 10 to 12, so you can sleep in or come for coffee. If we stay late playing poker every night, it's going to be a gentle wake up. 12 to 2 is a nice lunch, healthy. 3 to 5, 2 to 5, 3 hours of nice content. Then you get a little break. You go to the parties. At the end of the parties, you never know, a poker table or two might be pulled out and we play a little cash game. Who knows? Anything's possible. So poker could be all 3 nights. I don't know. This depends on the degeneracy level. But I think it's going to be a fun time. I'm just asking nobody go ham on Sunday or Monday night, please. Tuesday night, you want to have a little extracurricular. You want to go a little late, Davey, Chamath. That's fine. But
Va bene, va bene, va bene.
I want everybody in bed by midnight, Sunday night and Monday night. No crazy.
All right, so what are the dates this thing again?
Fucking God. Okay, it's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Oh. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday.
Of what?
May 15, 16, 17.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Oh my God, what a shit show. And
So it's
you
a month
better
from
fucking
now.
fly
It's in a
some of
month.
these speakers out to
It's in a month.
It is in a month.
That's why I'm busting my ass on this.
Okay, so Jake, I'm going to introduce you to Latinsky so we can slot him
And
in.
if anybody, we could use a couple more female speakers, people of color. I'm really trying to keep it diverse and have a lot of range of speakers. A lot of David stands said yes early. You got the Joe Lonsdales, you get Keith Rabois. They all want to support David's team. I could use a couple people maybe with opposing viewpoints. So we're trying to keep it a little bit wide. Barry Weiss may come. We're trying to work on Barry.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, we should get
Oh,
her.
sure.
Kara
Good.
Swisher
Great.
can't make it. I wanted to have Barry and Kara Swisher. It doesn't seem like that oil and vinegar is going to happen.
Can we
I'd like to-
can we get Glenn Greenwald?
But that's
would be amazing.
right. You're getting further to the
No,
right. What I would
Glenn-
like to have is somebody to pair
Matt
with Barry.
Taibbi?
That's another kind of right guy. I would like to have
No,
somebody on the
your
left who maybe
definitions are all
represents.
off, Jason. These definitions don't mean anything anymore.
Okay, they're independent critical thinkers. Okay, fine.
They originally came from the left. They're not like huge fans of unbridled capitalism, but they're more on the populist side.
Listen, if you
it's this
want
populist
to
versus
send an
elitist
invite
shakeup.
to anybody, Sachs, I would appreciate it. Particularly Peter Thiel, you're the one person who can deliver it since you guys are besties. Bring us Peter Thiel. The guy spoke at a goddamn.
All right, give me a list. I'll invite Glenn. I'll invite Taibbi. I'll invite Peter.
Oh, great! Now we just lost half the audience.
Try and invite
We're
Mearsheimer.
gonna have a protest outside.
I actually
These are the most interesting people.
Exactly.
Peter Thiel's the most interesting, for sure. I like Mike Taibbi, actually. I'll give you that.
Here's the problem. Here's the
I'm sorry,
problem. Here's the problem with getting the people on the other side is that the people on the other side, again, it's not right versus left anymore. It's sort of populist versus elitist. And you already know what all the elitists are going to say. And they're too afraid to be on stage with people on the other side.
But I mean, I think that you're associated with Peter Thiel, is a little bit charged and triggering for certain people. That's right.
Yeah, exactly. That's why they don't believe in free speech.
People are like, how could you be friends with David? I'm like, because we love each other and we're friends. Like, we're besties. And they're like, well, but you disagree with him. I'm like,
it's contamination by association.
Well, that's what they're trying to do.
Basically,
David, that's what they're trying to do to me right now. I'm getting the back channel. How could you do this with David Sachs? And I'm like, because he's my best friend.
That's why our pod is popular, is we have 4 people who are friends who sometimes disagree with each other. The reason you can't create the show
and still
anywhere
remain
else,
friends,
right?
Yes, I'm not giving up my friendship with David.
The reason you can't create the show anywhere else is because those people think they get contaminated if they even have a conversation with somebody on the other side of things.
But you don't get that on your side.
Correct.
Peter Thiel is not coming to you and saying,
because we're intellectually confident.
Cal.
We're intellectually confident. We don't believe in shutting down the debate.
Right.
We believe in free speech. The other side, they're authoritarian because they can't defend anything. They just cancel people. They've lost the art of persuasion.
I think they've given up. Their position would be they've given up trying to reach you. You just don't get it. They've given up trying to reach you. And I'm like, don't give up. Put up a fight. If you disagree with Sachs's position,
it's not about reaching me. Hold on. It's not about reaching me. It's about reaching all of them.
Yes.
All the people out there watching.
Engage the debate.
They don't want to engage the debate because they can't win the debate because they don't know how to persuade.
I beat you every week in this debate.
All they know how to do is
you in this debate weekly. Look what I did to you in January 6th.
All they know how to do is cancel people.
Yes.
They're so used to canceling
I debate you every
people.
week, Sachs, and I own you half the time.
Okay. Good. Think so.
January 6th? We're going to release the January 6th tapes?
That's all you got.
Your little excursion
That's
on
all
January
you got.
6th?
You're like MSNBC. That's all you got.
We'll let your winners ride.
Rain Man David Sachs.
And instead, we open source it to the fans, and they've just gone crazy with it.
Love you, West. The Queen of Quinoa. Besties are back.
Gold 13. That is my dog taking a notice in your driveway.
Oh, man.
My haberdasher room, we should all just get a room and just have one big huge orgy because they're all just useless. It's like this sexual tension that they just need to release somehow.
Wet your beak. Wet your beak.
Your feet.
That's gonna be we need to get merch.
Besties are back.